Our lesson today is modal verbs of speculation and deduction. Speculation, تخمين, deduction, استنتاج. So we're going to talk about modal verbs of speculation and deduction in both present and past. Our lesson is divided into two main parts. Part 1. First, we're going to talk about must. Then must have. So, we're going to use must with the infinitive form when we are 90% certain that something is true. She must be, this is must, and this is the infinitive form. She must be good at maths. Why? Because she always gets good, very good grades. So this is our main sentence. Okay, and this is the reason, or this is our evidence. So because of that, we've decided that she's good at maths because her grades are always good. 2. He must be Tom's son because he looks like him. So this is the rule here again. Must be is the infinitive form. So in this sentence, we said that he must be Tom's son because we have this evidence that he looks like him. So we said he must be Tom's son because we have this evidence that he looks like him. And we're talking about a situation in the present. And this sentence also talks about a situation in the present, and we have this evidence. Now let's move to the second form, which is must have with the past participle form. It's important to know that this form is the past of the first one that we've just talked about. This is for the present and this is for the past. And both of them when we're 90% sure about something. This is in the present, this is in the past. So this is used when we are 90% certain that something was true and when we're 90% certain that something is true. Okay, now she must have done well in her last exam. How have we known? Because she was really happy afterwards. So we have this conclusion, okay, that she must have done well in her last exam because of this evidence. And 2, the postman must have come early. What makes us think in this way? Because this is the evidence, because there are letters in the box already. So we have used must have come to make a deduction in the past when we are 90% certain that something was true. Now, what about if we are 90% certain that something isn't true in the present but negative? In this case, we use can't with the infinitive form. Okay. She can't be good at maths. Why? Because her marks are always bad. That can't be my notebook. Why? What is your evidence? Because it's red and mine is yellow. Let's notice that these situations are in the present, but we're 90% certain that these situations aren't true. Let's look back again to the first rule. In this rule, we are 90% certain that something is true. Now, if you are 90% certain that something wasn't true, let's look back here. With must have and the past participle form, we are 90% certain that something was true. So the negative is here. The negative is here when you or when we are 90% certain that something wasn't true, we use this form. We use couldn't or can't with have with the past participle form. Now, you can't or couldn't have seen Mike yesterday because he wasn't here. He was away on a trip. So this is our deduction about a situation in the past that something wasn't true. That man can't or couldn't have killed her. Why? What is our evidence? Because he was in a different city at the time of murder. So this is also a conclusion that we make about a past situation that something wasn't true according to this evidence that he was in a different city at the time of murder. Let's move to part 2 of this lesson. Now, in part 1, we said that you're 90% certain that something is or isn't true, 90% certain that something was or wasn't true. In this part, we're talking about 50% possibility that something is or isn't true, and here 50% possibility that something was or wasn't true. You have to pay attention to this point that in this part, we're not sure. We don't have any evidence. So, may, might, not, or could with the infinitive form for the 50% possibility that something is or isn't true. She could, may, or might be good at maths. We can use any of them, no problem. But I don't really know. I don't have any evidence. So because of that, it's 50% possibility. He may, might, could play tennis really well, but I don't know. I've never seen him play. I'm not sure. So because of that, it's 50% possibility, and because of that, we've used these modal verbs with the infinitive form. Now, if there is 50% possibility that something was or wasn't true, we use this form. We use the same modal verbs that we've used here. We use these here, but the only different thing is that we need have with the past participle form because we're talking about a situation in the past. She may have passed her exams, but I don't really know. We're making deduction about a past situation, and we're not sure about it. Somebody called you this morning. It might, may, or could have been Jack, but I'm not sure. I didn't recognize the voice. We're also not sure about him. In conclusion, in this lesson, we talked about must with the infinitive form, must have with the past participle form. This one, when you're 90% certain that something is true, 90% certain that something was true. We also talked about can't with the infinitive form when we are 90% certain that something isn't true, and this form here when we're 90% certain that something wasn't true. Moreover, we talked about how to express the 50% possibility that something is or isn't true, or 50% possibility that something was or wasn't true. We talked about these two rules. This rule is for the present, and this one is for the past.